Welcome and thank you for joining us for another Startup Selling Micro Webinar, Critical Information in Just Minutes. Today's webinar speaker for Essential Appointment Setting Tips for Trucking Agencies is John Scranton. He's formerly a licensed agent for a top 100 insurance agency. He has a BA and an MBA and is definitely considered a subject matter expert in this area. With that, John, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alan, for that nice introduction. And this being a micro webinar, we'll dive right into it. Very quick background. Today's web seminar is for trucking agencies, and just so all of you are on the same page that we are, we wanted to make sure you understood what we mean by that. The most obvious trucking agencies are those that exclusively handle trucking accounts. They have a big truck on their website. They say things like trucking is all we do, or we have trucking experts on staff. 98.8% of their revenue or 99.9% of their revenue is trucking accounts. Then there's the trucking producers, a microcosm of the trucking exclusive agencies. That may be just a guy or a gal who works at a larger agency. Doesn't have to be huge, could be a community agency, could be a top 10 agency, but that person specifically focuses on trucking accounts. The key is that, like the exclusive trucking agency, they possess the expertise and the specialization that a generalist who has a couple trucking accounts might not have. Somewhere in the middle is the trucking practice. A trucking practice is often found in the bigger agencies, top 10, 20, maybe top 50 type agencies, where they actually have a division, might even be a standalone office, where there's a principal or a vice president who manages a few producers and a handful of service staff who only handle transportation business. A big agency might have a healthcare practice, a construction practice, and a transportation practice. Any of these three fit our definition of a trucking agency. The key is that they've all chosen to develop expertise unique to the transportation industry. Not that they have trucking in their agency name or it says trucking on their business card, but that they can say in their value proposition that they have trucking expertise and mean it. So for these trucking agencies, we talk to them daily, even hourly at times, about what their needs are, how we can best help them, what their challenges are, what are their goals for the coming year, and without fail, they want to talk about lead generation. They know that they have a huge opportunity to access high value, high commission transportation accounts who often want to talk about ways to improve their risk management, losses, or costs with insurance, because insurance is usually the third or fourth biggest expense for a trucking company. So here we have high value commissions coming from people who want to talk about insurance. It's a rare combination. However, these producers are already very busy with their existing books. They're very busy with the business they're already quoting and working on. They have insufficient time to cultivate new leads, therefore insufficient leads. So they have a lead generation need or a lead generation challenge. And we want these producers or these trucking practices or trucking agencies to use their expertise for the higher value activities of presenting, closing, and servicing important accounts. We don't want them spending all day cold calling new prospects. We can find a better way to do that. It can be done outsourced, it can be done in-house, some combination thereof, but lead generation needs to be taken off the plate of the high cost, high value producers and executives. Now, when you're targeting transportation accounts, there's really two ways to develop lead gen. Appointment setting, which we'll talk about today, or email marketing. We'll talk about email marketing in the next Startup Selling Micro Webinar, which is used to access larger accounts and find decision makers who are impossible to reach on the phone. But in many cases, in fact, I would argue that all accounts between 1 and 50 power units, most accounts between 50 and 75 power units, can be effectively reached with a high quality appointment setting model. So owner operators, onesie twosies, small fleets, which some agencies will call 2 to 10, others will call 5 to 25, and mid-sized fleets, which may be 5 to 50 or 25 to 50 or 10 to 50, depending on how you define it, can all be effectively reached by a high quality appointment setting campaign that leverages the essential tips we're going to review with you right now. The first of which is a great prospect list. Now, we talked about the unique opportunity that transportation or trucking as a vertical provides because you have high value accounts who are somewhat open to discussing their insurance compared to maybe a contractor. Now, you have another opportunity created by their requirement to submit all their information to the Department of Transportation. If you're calling a contractor, the first call you make might be to ask what their X date is. Maybe you can find out their comp X date on a state workers' comp board. Then you're trying to determine what policies do they have with what carriers. What do they do? Are they on a roof or are they on the ground? How are their losses? And over this time period, you develop a file, you develop a prospect file, and we've all done it. And it may take half a dozen phone calls. It may take months. It may take all the way until their next renewal for you to determine if Joe's Contracting is a great prospect that you can help and is worth your time. With transportation, you can do everything I just said in advance of ever picking up the phone. And that's another huge opportunity with trucking. There's list vendors out there that will pull the information from the Federal Motor Carrier Registry for you, sort it based on criteria that you provide, and it's not just simple criteria like I'd like all the trucking accounts in Virginia with 5 to 50 trucks, or I'd like all the owner-operators in Texas, or I'd like every trucking account in California that hauls blank compressed gas. It actually gives you much more detailed information, and some of the veteran producers on the phone already know this, but may not be thinking about the extent to which they can use it. You can pull X dates. So the calls that you make in December are only to people renewing in January, February, and March. You can review carriers, so you can only call the people that you know you can compete against, or only call the people who you know have a program with holes or challenges. You can determine what the people haul. If you have problems with Hazmat, or if you have people who are movers that you don't want, or towing operations, you can filter all that out. You can even review how many basic alerts they've had to determine what type of safety record they have. Do you have ultra competitive programs that are best for the squeaky clean accounts? Or do you have some programs that like to get their hands dirty and help people with challenges who maybe are paying a higher premium but require some additional work, kind of clean the mud off of their safety records? You can determine all of this before anybody picks up the phone to call these accounts. So it's a huge opportunity for you to find the bullseye, find the target when you create your prospect list. You don't have to clear away all the clutter. You can go directly to the best opportunity accounts. So once you determine who you're going to call, the next step is, what are you going to say? And when you create your call pitch for these transportation accounts, the key is to identify concise and high impact differentiators. Concise, meaning it needs to be said in a phrase or a sentence at the very most. And high impact means it must be unique and powerful. Every agency I've ever talked to, every agency I've ever worked with or worked for has had some semblance of the following statement. We've been in business for a long time, we have access to all the markets, and our service is the best. Every agency says that. Every agency means it. They're not lying. It's the truth. The problem is everybody else is saying the same thing. So what can you say that's truly different? We already identified one earlier for those agencies who are focusing on transportation accounts exclusively. They could say something like, trucking is all we do. Trucking is all we've ever done. The standalone trucking producer within a larger agency or the trucking practice can actually use a version of that as well, saying trucking is all I do, or trucking is all we do, or we have an office dedicated to servicing people just like you. We only work with trucking accounts all day long. The key is making sure that these people know you understand their business, know that you have the expertise to help them. I recently received a lead alert from a prospect that said, I want to talk to somebody who can answer all my questions about trucking. I don't want the agent to tell me that they're a trucking agent then have to say, I'll call you back with answers. And I thought that was a really powerful and compelling statement from this trucking account. They just wanted a true trucking expert, or somebody, as we're calling today, from a trucking agency. Other high impact differentiators might be an exclusive or limited program. We're the only people in the state of Florida that can show you blank market, so you may want to take a few minutes to speak with us. Or there's a very limited number of agents representing blank company in the state of Missouri. You probably haven't seen a quote from them, maybe ever, or at least in many years. There's some unique features that we'd like to take you through. Something that differentiates you quickly and impactfully from your competitors. Not just saying we think we might be able to save you money. Nobody wants a clear sales pitch. They want a great, impactful differentiator that shows your unique expertise. The next step after you have a great list and a great pitch is to find a great appointment setter. And if you attended our recent webinar about appointment setting in general, not specific to trucking, you know that we feel this is a critical element that can make or break your campaign. If you have a great list and a great pitch, the person delivering it has to be able to carry that message effectively, or all the tools that you've created, all those tools that you've sharpened and honed and spent time on, won't be put to good use. You need somebody that can consistently generate high quality and a reasonably high quantity of appointments. If they get 10 appointments a week and nobody shows up, they've failed. If they get one appointment that is very interested, they might still have failed. You want somebody who can consistently produce activity, an appointment every couple hours for a mid-sized trucking account, and you want appointments that are quality, a high level of interest, and a high level of attendance. And most importantly, and most uniquely, they must understand trucking. If they get somebody on the phone who just got done fixing a truck and is about to jump into another truck because they're sort of an owner-operator, even though they own a 10-power unit trucking company, they may have 2 minutes and they agree to talk next Monday. And when you say, can you tell me a little bit more about your operation, they do a brain dump. Well, we have 10 power units. It's eight tractors, 2 vans. We got 6 drivers. We sometimes use owner operators. We haul pork fat in Alabama and Mississippi. And okay, I got to go. A really good caller is going to take all that, digest it, know exactly what he was talking about, take detailed notes, and still present you with a quality lead alert, even though this busy business owner did a brain dump that quickly. If they don't understand all the nuances of trucking, they're going to have to ask questions about that, drill down on that information. What do you haul again? Where? What do you mean? What do you mean you have some trucks and some vans? What's the difference? And the prospect is immediately going to know that although this appointment setter claimed your organization knows everything about trucking, and trucking is all you do, they couldn't carry the ball across the finish line. They weren't able to gather that lead without showing some level of ignorance to the process. So you have to have somebody that truly gets the industry, has been trained on the industry. In our last webinar, you may have heard that will review dozens of resumes, to interview a dozen callers, to hire 3, to retain 1 that's good enough to consistently create quality activity on a reasonable quantity level and understands the transportation industry, possibly with some training. Now, if an appointment setter really gets it, they'll bring back to you leads like this. The information down the left is very standard, contact information for the company and the individual that you'll be meeting with. However, the information down the right side of the lead alert is all unique to trucking and requires that level of understanding, at least at the surface level, at least maybe a level below the surface level, to be able to gather all this info. We have 43 trucks, 30 drivers. We work with 10 owner operators. We have general freight, no hazmat. We typically haul up to 1,000 miles. We're with this carrier. We renew on that date. And by the way, we're not too happy with the service and responsiveness of our current broker. Maybe they're too long on certs. Who knows? This information is important to you when you're reaching back out to the prospect because you're educated. You know what types of markets you may be able to place them with. You know what types of challenges they're facing. So you can present them with a solution to their problems. And it requires a very good appointment setter to bring back this type of lead alert. The last tip that we wanted to talk about today is the lead handling process, the lead process. The way to nurture these leads is unique to trucking. If you have the president of our 43 or 40 truck account, whatever it was a moment ago, he may be the president and occasionally drive and occasionally fix trucks and occasionally be in sales and be a very busy guy wearing a lot of hats. He's not typically going to be behind a desk all day like you would find in some other industries. So it requires multiple touches and a strong nurturing process to make sure that this person actually shows up for the appointment. It may start out with a calendar invitation immediately after the appointment is set. And in some industries, that's all you need to do. That will be a sufficient process. But with transportation, even if the appointment's only in 48 or 72 hours, you may need to send a reminder email the night before or the morning of. If the appointment is 5 days out, you may want to send collateral, case study, or digital brochure about your agency or your program midway between the time you set the appointment and the actual appointment to make sure that they are reminded of who you are, the expertise that you have, and why it is that they should keep that appointment Tuesday at 2 p.m. on their calendar instead of making a quick run for one of their clients or going to help repair a truck that's broken down or whatever distraction they're hit with. It's a high stress, high intensity industry with a lot of demand on the ownership. You need to make sure that you nurture the lead so that you don't take your great list, your great pitch, your awesome appointment setter, put them all together to create an awesome opportunity and then let it die on the vine. So with that, we're going to bring our web seminar to a close today. We thank you all for attending this micro web seminar. Please be looking for new micro webinar invitations. We'll be talking about email marketing in 2016 in our next webinar. Thank you for attending. We hope you all have a great day.